Hey y'all, it's Jeff Wiseman in Park City, Utah. And I get a lot of questions. Specifically, we're talking about how do I know if my heat tape is working? This is specifically referring to the gutter, ice melting, roof mounted ice melting heat tape, not heat tape that you would put around your plumbing pipes to keep them from freezing. So, how do you know if it's working? Basically, there's only two ways to tell. One is you look and see that the snow is melted around where you know the tape is. Or two, you've got to physically get up there and touch it. Feel the heat tape. So here is a picture of what heat tape looks like when it's working. See all the ice and snow melted away and you can actually physically see the tape. Here's a picture of heat tape that's not working. Pretty easy to see that. And here's a couple of pictures where it's easy to grab hold of the heat tape and feel it's working. Feel that it's warmer than the ambient air. This picture here, there's several heat tapes coming out and you can see everything is melted around the heat tapes. That's pretty evident this heat tape is working. Now, all heat tape is electrically powered. So the question is, how is yours getting power? How does yours turn on? When does it turn on? When does it turn off? Who turns it on? Who turns it off? All that stuff. And every house is going to be different. In a condominium complex or townhome complex where your townhomes are the same, left to right, left to right, your heat tape may not be. So you need to learn your heat tape and learn how it gets power, where it gets power from, and all of that. So here is a picture of what a typical hardwired connection on heat tape looks like. You can clearly see where the heat tape enters the junction box. This is an example of a dedicated GFI breaker in the breaker box, clearly labeled heat tape. The homeowner here has to physically go down into his basement, into his electrical mechanical room, and manually turn on and off this breaker when he wants the heat tape to be on or off. This is going to be typical in a higher end custom home where the electrical wiring was thought of in advance and circuits were run to key strategic placement points along the roof eaves so that if and when heat tape was needed, it could be readily installed. Okay, so here is an example of a cord connected heat tape. This example has a GFI protection on the cord between the heat tape and the plug. Notice in this picture, the LED indicator light, this tells us the unit is powered on. No light, no power. This homeowner has to manually, every year, when he wants his heat tape on, he has to manually go outside and plug it in. And then at the end of the winter season, when he wants to turn this off, he has to remember to manually unplug it. This type of an installation is more typical of when heat tape wasn't pre-thought out or planned, or it became necessary years down the road, and this was the closest power point that they had to plug it in. So older heat tape systems have a little bit of automation into it, or at least are trying to be automated. They've got sensors and thermostats and flux capacitors outside that are monitoring Flex capacitors. That are monitoring the conditions and that are supposed to manually, or not manually, that are supposed to automatically turn on the heat tape. These systems over the years have found to be less reliable, unpredictable, and they kind of caution on the side of, I don't want anything to freeze up. Let's just turn the heat tape on. So it's not uncommon for the heat tape to come on in July. Most of the systems that I've seen and assisted in on the installations don't do this anymore today. Now, it is not uncommon to have a wall switch inside your house, a dedicated wall switch that you still have to manually turn off and on, but it can be strategically located. I've seen these where you've had to access an attic through an access hole and reach up and hit a switch. I've seen switches in basements. I've seen switches right next to the breaker box. Clearly what we want to do is label things. As in this picture that I showed you at the beginning of the hardwired heat tape, there's a label on the junction box cover telling you what circuit breaker it is. And then down in the breaker box, it tells you heat tape. Don't be afraid to make labels and put them in your breaker box. Bottom line here is you need to learn your heat tape system. Where the heat tape runs on the roof. You're going to need to do that during the summer. Where it gets its power from, where its breakers are, where its wall switches are, where the GFI protection is, whether it's the breaker or the receptacle it's plugging into, or it's in line in the cord. Make notes to yourself, send yourself reminders on the calendar to turn heat tape on and to turn heat tape off. It's up to you. I hope this helps you. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm pretty good at replying. It's Jeff Wise in Park City. See ya.